Okay, so we are ready to go with our second workshop, our second MyR workshop in our summer webinar series. And so I would like to introduce Shelmith Kariuki. She is on the leadership team of Africa R and is a senior data analyst. So I pretty much, I'm done. So I'm just going to give it to Shell. And let's all turn off our cameras now. Oh, you're on mute.
Hi everyone, my name is Shelmith. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm very grateful to the MyR. What do? I'm a co-organizer of Nairobi R, and as Doris mentioned, I'm in the Africa R leadership team. So you can check out our Twitter page and our website online. Today's training is about ggplot, and this is a very kind introduction to ggplot. 3 years now, and I have learned some neat tricks that have helped me in my data analysis work, and that's what I'm willing to share today. So just to set people's expectations, disclaimer, again, this is such a very humble introduction, basic introduction. If you need, I can hear myself from, I don't know. Anyway, if you need an advanced session, please feel free to check some sessions on the internet. There's a very good workshop that Thomas Lin presented. It was a 2-part session. It's on YouTube. Just search ggplot2 workshop. You'll get it there. I often tend to over-explain, especially now that this is a virtual class. I think the advantage of having an in-person class is you can tell when people are following or when they're lost. Right now, I'm not able to tell much, so I tend to over-explain. If you find me too slow, apologies. Again, at times I tend to rap a lot, like, yeah, you know what, blah, blah, blah. Doris and Danielle, please feel free to interject at any time and just tell me to be together. Then again, this tutorial assumes a basic knowledge of dplyr. Dplyr is part of the tidyverse package because there's some data manipulation I'm going to be doing here and there. And then there are many ways of killing a rat. Whatever I'm going to present today is how I use ggplot and how I've used ggplot over the years. I think when you Google on the internet, you'll find pieces of code that are a bit different. But for me, I'm presenting what has worked and what has worked for most of my students or trainees. Yeah, again, the last one, I know for some of you who are on Twitter, you know about Tidy Tuesday. And you've seen beautiful graphs on people post on the hashtag Tidy Tuesday. That is not what we are doing today. We are not here to create a super amazing, pretty graph. We are going to just create a minimal, something nice, something you can present to a client. I worked for a consultancy firm and I realized at times it's not all about a graph being pretty. You need to also create a graph or a plot.
There you are. Up north a little bit.
That the client can understand. You know, with my talks with Doris, sorry. The idea was just to introduce you people and just explain the ggplot syntax in a layman language. And my hope and prayer is that at the end of this lesson, you will not need to Google a lot. Googling is totally fine. We still Google up to today, but then once you understand the syntax, you get to enjoy it and maybe Google less. Yeah, so today's data is found on the Zindi platform. So Zindi is a data science competition platform based on African problems. It's like Kaggle, but for Africa. The data itself is found on the Financial Inclusion in Africa competition, whose link I had posted earlier. And this competition was, the idea behind this was to create a machine learning model to predict which individuals are likely to have or even use a bank account. The data contains demographic information for about 33,000 individuals across East Africa, and it was generated from various FinScope surveys from 2016 to 2018. So if you want to know more about FinScope, please, you can just Google. I think that's it on the introductory part. And right now I'm going to share my screen. So again, I don't have, what do you call them? I don't have slides. I have a script that we are going to go through. Feel free to post on the chat when you don't understand anything. Not anything, rather, at least something. I think I can share my screen. Let me see. Share screen. Just give me a moment. Sorry, I just received a message to, oh, sorry, that's not mine. Anyway, please confirm you can see the our markdown file. Somehow I'm not able, I don't know, Doris, what's up with this Zoom? I don't know, I'm not able to see the chat having shared my screen. I don't know whether it's just a blonde moment. I'm not sure.
Oh, what's going on?
Like I'm not able to see the chat while I've shared my screen.
Oh yeah, I find that's usually the case. I mean,
okay.
So Danielle and I will be monitoring the chat, and we'll let you know if there's a pressing question.
Okay, that's fair. Please confirm what you can see on my screen. I just want to be able to be sure that people can see my screen.
I can at least see your screen. I see the title, subtitle, author, day, out. I see the YAML, and then like the code chunks 0.1 and 0.2.
Okay, thank you. Cool. So I hope everyone can see that. So I prefer coding in our Markdown because at the end of the day, I'm able to combine my code and my output and maybe a small write-up or documentation all in one, especially when I'm working on some work that maybe I'm sending to the client or I'm sending to the boss and I don't want maybe too many questions. So I'm like, everything is in that file. And this is how I love generating my YAML. At the end of the day, when we render this file, if you click on something like the title, it should take you directly to the my R community Twitter handle. If you click on the author, it will take you to my website. And I find it very good to sell my work and also like just tell people what I work on. Like they can go see stuff I've worked on my website. Again, the data set we are using is the Financial Inclusion in Africa, which is found on the Zindi platform that I've already talked about. I don't know if most of you know this, but there's a way you can universally set your chunk options instead of having to set your options on each chunk one by one. Like there's a way you can set them universally. So it depends. You can have your figure width and figure height in any I don't know, dimensions, whichever you want. Then today we are going to use 3 packages. The first one is tidyverse for data manipulation, and that also loads in ggplot. Then we have libridate, which will use to generate a year variable, a month variable from a certain variable we'll generate later. Then patchwork, which we're going to combine to use plots. I'm going to mention patchwork at the end. So this is all about just installing and loading our packages. Then I'll come back to this chunk later. So just ignore it for now. I'll explain, and there's a reason why it's commented out. I'll talk about it later. So having run that, when we look at the data, again, if you've been able to download the data sets from the Zindi platform, there are like 4, or just maybe a train and a test. For the purpose, today we are not going to fit any machine learning models. So for the purpose of today's session, we're only going to use one data set, which is train. And I think by now Doris and Danielle have shared it out. If you look at, if like you just have a glimpse of the data, this data is from 4 countries. So we have, let's see, DF extract country. Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, these are East African countries. You can read more about this data set on the Zindi website rather. And we have different variables here. The year, this is when the data was collected. So I think Kenya and another country, they were collected in 2018 and the rest in 2016. The unique ID, this variable was very important for the prediction test, prediction model. So we won't need it today. This is of importance, so whether someone has a bank account or not. So in Africa, access to bank account is seen or regarded as an indicator of financial inclusion. So it's really important to analyze how or what sets of people have a bank account and who don't. And then location type, cell phone access, blah, 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 gender of respondent, relationship, marital status, education level, job type. So we won't use all this data, like we won't use all the variables. I love this data because it's simple and it contains categorical variables and continuous variables, again, for the purpose of this training. The first thing I did was to convert character variables to factor. So for you to know the type of data for each variable, you can use the function glimpse. So as you can see, most of our categorical variables are character variables. And this will be problematic when it comes to plotting, because at times you have variables that are actually ordered. Think of education level. You don't want to start with university and then, I don't know, grade 1 somewhere at the center. So it's very good to categorize your variables. There are very many ways of factoring variables, and I created a small script on my website. I came to learn about the FCT level. It's from the Forecast package that is part of Tidyverse, and this is very good when you want to categorize your data or variables. So it depends. At times when I have variables whose values are no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, I always love starting with no and then yes. You could want it differently, of which if you want the other way around, you just start with yes and then no. So this no gets a level of 1 and yes gets a level of 2. And that's what I've done basically on this chunk. I've just organized the data the way I want it to appear on the graphs. Someone may claim that that's repetitive code, you should have used functions. Definitely I would have used functions, but I'm here for the beginners, those people who are still who are learning R. And I think it will be easier to put it this way, and then later, once you're really used to this, you can create functions. So I did that. I didn't bother to work out the job type 1 because of time. But again, you should indicate the values as they are in the data. So for example, if you want to see how the education levels are exactly in the data, we will have DF extract education level. The thing about this is that sometimes you could have spaces in value labels and your naked eye cannot trace or cannot see them. So it will be very good to just copy your values from there to here. Then because this training will cover 3 types of graphs only, we'll have bar graph, line graph, and point graph, or a scatter plot. For the purposes of the scatter plot and the time, the line graph, I wanted to introduce 2 variables. One is income and the other one is a date. So I just guessed something like, let's assume that these guys were asked to register for a certain item or a certain product at a certain month of 2014. So it was just simulated a random sample. So what I did at first, I generated income values. Again, I just guessed arbitrarily values, and then generated a new variable called income that takes in those values. And then just to make it a bit real, for anyone whose job type was no income, that means you don't earn an income. So I had to insert that to put that as NA, otherwise have it as income. And then the same for dates. So I simulated dates in the year 2014. And then from those dates, I was able to generate a random sample, as many as our observations, in this case, 23,524. And then inserted that in the, generated a new variable rather called date that holds the, what do you call them? Holds the values. So to run up to that point, DF, you can see our variables at the end. So again, something I forgot, I'm still using the earlier version of the, sorry, I'm still using the earlier version of dplyr. So I think with the new dplyr function package, there's a way you can insert variables between other variables. I'm not sure, I think I so hardly tweet that. But for now, we're still using the old dplyr. So we have the date variable here. And from this date variable, we are going to generate a month variable. So we can see, for example, this is August, this is September, the third one is June, whatnot. So to generate, again, for those who are new in using dplyr, we use mutate to generate new variables. And we use this pipe operator, that's the percentage greater than percentage sign, to denote sequential tasks. So I wanted to generate month. The month function is from LibriDate, which I love so much because it's very easy to use. I don't know, it works really well when you're working with dates. So it takes in 3 arguments, maybe there are more, but I use 3. The first one is the date, where you want to extract your month, and whether you want your month to be abbreviated or not. I always choose abbreviation because sorry, let me just take water. I love abbreviation so that the graph does not look very cluttered. And then label is equal to true. Ideally, the month function generates values in terms of numbers. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 12. But then I always want to have labels instead. So once you run that.
Shell, can I just interrupt you for 1 second? I was wondering, could you send me your markdown script, please? So I can send it to everyone. Some people it would be easier for them to follow along. Yeah, there's several people asking for it. So could we just pause for a second and get that out?
How should, which is the easiest way? On email? Hello?
Yeah, I muted myself like a, okay, I wasn't, sorry.
Sorry.
You do it on chat and then I'll download it and I'll just send it to everyone just in case. So yeah, we're gonna just take a pause for a second, everyone, and we're just gonna get our markdown script out to you. Yeah, no problem.
There.
Thank you. So everybody can download. And again, like I said, I will send an email to everyone. So could just give us 2 minutes, please. I'm just going to mute myself for real this time and not talk.
I've just seen someone say, I'm quite lost. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Do I have to wait? I don't know. You'll give me a cue to continue.
Once, give it 1 minute, because I'm about to send the email out to everyone, if you don't mind. Does everyone, this is going to take a little bit more time than I thought. Does everyone have the script? Or can I just get a go from at least a few people? Okay, we have 2 people, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you can go on.
Okay.
I'm getting a lot of yeses, and I'm loving all these yeses. So thank you so much.
Okay. Where was I? How comes I have to? Okay. Share. So, just to confirm that I'm sharing the right screen. Someone.
You have the distribution of cell phone access. And
Okay,
and
good.
then it's the R
Cool.
code check with first generated table.
Okay,
So,
fine.
yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So yeah, as I was saying, once we generate the month, or I was just about to show you the month variable at the end. So we have neat values, August, September, blah, blah, blah. Again, we have the abbreviated months, because when it comes to plotting, I find that easier. So yeah, that's it. That's the only data manipulation I needed to do for this. And now we're going to go straight into plotting. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to look at 3 graphs: bar graph, line graph, and scatter plot. And for the bar graph, it depends. A friend of mine was telling me that they're not able to know when to generate a bar graph, when to generate a line graph, when to generate a scatter plot, which I think it's a bit fair. Am I still audible, Doris?
You are perfectly clear.
Okay, I always get a sign on my screen that my connection is unstable, so I just always have to confirm.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So when you're plotting a bar graph, if you have a categorical variable and you want to show the distribution using maybe counts, or you want to show the average of a certain continuous variable for each of the levels of a categorical variable, you plot a bar graph. Now, you can have 2 kinds of bar graph: a bar graph that just has one single categorical variable, and one with 2 variables, for example. So I'm going to skip that part because I want to show you how to generate a table and a graph from scratch. And then we are going to go back. So ideally, this is the code, but I want to take you through it step by step. So let's see, table 2. So tab 2 is equal to df, Control Shift M. We want to create counts for each of the countries. So we'll group by country. I really love RStudio because of the pop-ups. And then let's just have count, basically that. And when you run your tab and get tab 2, you'll get the counts for each of the countries. But I don't want to plot counts. I want to plot, what do you call them? Percentages. So I'll first have to ungroup. Again, I think the new dplyr version has a better way of doing this. I'm still stuck to the old one. So ungroup and mutate percentage, which is pack is equal to n, that is a variable containing the count, divide by sum of n, and then, multiply by 100. Then have that, tab 2. So we have the percentages, but I always love rounding them to at least 1 decimal place. So I'll come here, Control X, round. The first option what are you rounding off that value to? How many decimal places? 1. So once we have that, we have a very cool table of percentages. That's tab 2. And then now when we come to plotting, again, remember what I said at the beginning, there are very many ways of doing stuff. So this is how I create my plot. So at first I'll have plot2 is equal to ggplot. People confuse ggplot and ggplot2. So ggplot2 is the package itself and ggplot is the function. So from ggplot, the first thing I specify is data. So my data, I want to plot this summary table, that is that too. And then we have what we call, sorry, hello? Okay, I thought that was Doris interjecting me. We have something we call aesthetic. Aesthetics, they describe how the variables in the data are, I don't know, are mapped to the final plot or the visualization we are working with. So at this point, I always describe what goes to my x-axis and what goes to my y-axis. So in the x-axis, I want us to plot country, and in the y-axis, I want us to have percentage, just that. But then if you run this at that point, I don't even think it's going to give you anything. It's okay, nice. It's a blank shell, whatever, because you've not really specified the type of graph you want. So when you're working with ggplot, you add stuff like layers step by step using a plus sign. So first we've defined the outer shell. We've described what data we are using, what goes to the x-axis and what goes to the y-axis. As you can see right now, the x, we have the different countries on the x-axis and then the percentage on the y-axis, and then the variables as they are. So in my tab 2, we can see we have park in small letters and country in small letters, and that's how it appears as of now. But then at the end of the day, you don't want it to look like that. So we are going to change the labs at the end. So the next thing you do, you specify the type of graph you want using geom underscore. So there are very many types of graphs you can work with, but for now we want a bar graph. So geom underscore bar. Geom underscore bar, if you just put your cursor inside the brackets and tab, you can see different arguments for that function. But I normally use, I think, 3. So the first one is start. Start is equal to identity, and start is equals to identity is kind of telling the ggplot function or the geom underscore bar function that please plot my data as is. Do not carry out any further manipulation. I want the values that are in my tab 2 to actually be the exact values that are plotted on my graph. So that is equal to identity. When you Google ggplot syntax, you'll see someone else has used stat is equal to count. I totally avoid that, and I don't know why. Like, I really totally avoid that. For me, I always like having a table and then graphing it. It's easier. So that's the first step. Then the second step is defining your color. So I don't know if I'm the only one who always got confused between color and fill when it comes to ggplot. But when you're plotting a bar graph in, when you want to color a bar graph, you should think about fill. So imagine the bars, imagine the different bars are like cylinders. So ask yourself, like, what do we want to fill them with? So we want to fill them with a certain color, and which color is that? So you can choose whichever color you want. I don't know why nowadays I really love working with maroon. But that's it. And then also we can actually run this graph to that point. I'm very mindful of time. We have that pretty. I love the coloring, but sometimes someone may think the bars are too thick, so you can choose to reduce them. So width is equal to, I don't know, I can choose an arbitrary figure. Width is equal to 0.7, for example. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's better for me. Um, so that's the geom bar part. Those are the only three things I specify for now. The start is equal to identity, fill, and width. Now, after that, something else to talk about colors. So there are colors that are kind of understands, but you can also Google color codes online. Just Google something like color codes. You'll get a lot of different shades of colors with different codes, and R works with that. For example, the RStudio Blue, I had to go on their website and look at is it the CSS file? Some file. When you right click on a website and go to inspect. So I saw their color is that code. So if you come and replace it over there, it always have to have a hashtag and a certain code. When you run that, you get such beauty. I don't know whether this is the actual RStudio Blue. I'm not sure, but anyway, you get the point. You can use whichever color you want. And then, so go back to my maroon. And then at this point, what do we not like about the graph? I don't like that the bars don't have values. Like, I can't really know the exact percentage of maybe Kenya. I know it's between 20 and 30, but I'm not really sure. So we need to add labels. Something else, I don't like the size of the texts, the axis text. I think they are too small. The labels the axis title is also too small. We need a title. I don't like the background. So those are some of the things we can change. So at this point, I'll first insert labels. So you insert the labels using text, geom_text, inside an IS function. So my label, that is the label the value that will appear on top of each of the bars. So we want our label to be park. Sorry, someone has their mic unmuted and I can hear myself. So, and then what size do you want the label to be? Let's say 4 or 5. We'll look at how it looks at the end and see whether we want to change. Then there are two key functions we need to know. One is HJust, which I think stands for horizontal adjustment, and the other is VJust. And at the beginning, when I was learning ggplot, I really struggled knowing which value do I use as the HJust and which value do I use as the VJust. But I think by now I'm really used to it. So we'll have HJust is equal to 0.5, meaning it's at the center, and then VJust negative 0.25. If your VJust is negative, it means you want your label away from the bars. If your VJust is positive, you want your labels inside the bars. So when we plot that, I think this looks okay at that point, but again, we need to change the title, the axis sizes and all. So that's it for the geom text. And if you see, let's try and put this as positive just to see what happens. Oh, time is running out. So the more positive the VJust is, the more the value is inside the plot. So I don't know if we put not inside the plot, inside the particular bar. So if we have that, yeah, so the more you adjust, the more you increase the value of VJust, the more you have your text lower. So that's it. And then now this is the most interesting part when it comes to ggplot theme. And sorry, we use theme really handles non-data plot elements. For example, things like the axis labels, things like the title, the things that are not really part of the data. So, okay, let me first run this because right now it looks very ugly. Okay, so theme. The first thing I want to do is work on the plot. So by the way, once you just type theme like that and then tab, it gives you very many arguments. Like you can change a lot of things to do with the graph. So I want to start with plot, and I want to start with plot title. Under theme, we have functions that are the element underscore stars. I call them element underscore asterisk. We have underscore blank, underscore line, underscore rect, blah, blah, blah. And if you come on the Google Help and text, I don't know if I can see, element underscore line, for example, you'll get a whole documentation of some of these arguments. But anytime you want to change the look and feel of a text, be it title, be it the axis, think about element underscore text. So element underscore text. And here we change things such as the size. Let's say I want my plots, size. I want my plot size to be what? Let's say 18. I want the font, I don't know, a minute. I want my family to be something like, I don't know, it's Source, Sans, Semi. I don't know if I'm going to type it the right way. It's Source, Sans, is it? Let me see. Let me remember. Source, Sans, Semi, Pro. Okay, I can't remember the family, so we are going to leave it at that. I can't remember how to spell it exactly. It's actually up here. Oh yeah, it's up here. I can copy it. Can copy it. Family is equal to that. So we've changed the size, we've changed the family. You can always change the face. So maybe we want it to be italic. So that's it. We've only changed the plot title. Let's see how this goes. Oops. Oh, we've not added the plot title. Okay, I think we should have added them first. Okay, I'll go back to the theme. So let's first add the titles. So we have labs, title is equal to, what do we call this? Distribution of sample by country, distribution of sample by country. I don't want to label my x-axis because already you can see these are countries, but I will want to label my y-axis. Y is equal to percentage. And then I always love adding captions. If you look at most of the, what do you call them? The Tidy Tuesday graphs, you'll see captions. So this is how captions are added. For those who would want to follow me, please, that's my Twitter handle. So that's it. Let's run that. Yes, so now you can see we have a title. It's italicized. It's in the Sans Pro semi-bold. But also I love when my title is centered. So again, horizontal adjustment. By the end of this training, if H just does not stand for horizontal adjustment, it's okay, that's my own definition. H just, I want it to be at the center, so 0.5. Yeah, so that's it. When you're looking at the title adjustment, so when you're looking at changing the look and feel of the title, think about the size, the font face, and the horizontal adjustment. So that's it. Then we want to change the axis title. So axis.title title. You can choose to change one, maybe the X one or the Y one, but mostly I want to change both. So axis.title is equal to, again, element underscore what underscore text. You can play around with this. You can play around with, what do you call it, with element underscore text arguments, but for now we are going to use, I don't know, we're just going to specify that. You can also change axis.text. So I hope you can tell the difference between the title and the text. I'm going to copy that. You can see I'm talking too much. It's almost 10. And then size is equal to 14. I don't like the gray background, so I'll change that. Panel dot background is equal to element dot this fill is equal to NA. Again, you can read about element underscore rect on the help page. So let's see what we have right now. Okay, looks better at least, but then I want my x-axis and y-axis. So you have axis dot line is element underscore line color is equal to, let's say, black, and then black, and then size is equal to 1. Let's try that. Then don't forget the comma. Yeah, I think that's it. Then that's okay. The caption is too small. So plot dot caption is equal to element underscore text. Size is equal to, I think I'm going to give it a size 14. Should I? Okay, let me try size 14. So anyway, when you're plotting the first graph, you'll have to play around with the aesthetics and the theme. But now what happens is, once I'm comfortable with this theme, I'll come, cut it at this point, Control X, go back to my first chunk here, setting my theme. V, then call this MIR, minority R theme. So what I will do, Control C, run that chunk, and then come back to my plot, and then plus that. It makes the plot we run. Doris, am I still audible?
Your connection is breaking up. So could you just repeat what you said before?
The theme part.
Yeah, just like yeah, just.
Okay, sorry. So we generated a theme that was very chunky, and I was saying that once you have a theme that you're comfortable with, you just cut it and paste it at the beginning, at like a chunk over here, and give it a name. So for example, my R theme. Then run that, then come to your graph where your theme was, just put the MIR theme at that point. Then run this again. So every time you want to generate a graph, you'll always just be adding the MIR theme. So all your graphs will look the same. They'll have a different background. They'll have the same background. They'll have the same kind of title size, the y-axis size, and so on. So that's it when it comes to adjustment. I always feel once you're very comfortable with the theme, it becomes easier to just put it at the beginning and then run it. So I also had another example here. I was looking at the distribution of cell phone access. And I should actually change this to the MIR theme, MIR underscore theme. So the same thing, come up with your table 1. Don't know if I've run it, run. Tab 1 just shows central access, no, yes, and then what goes to your X, the X var, that is the categorical. What goes to your Y, the percentage. Then start is equal to identity, color, the width, then IS label is equal to percentage, size, horizontal adjustment and vertical adjustment, then your labs. Then at this point, you may want to cap your, what do you call them? The labels, like you may want your y-axis to range from 0 to 100. So you use the function ylim, concatenate from 0 to 100. So once we have that, we have something like that. You can always change this, that's fine. So that's when you have only one categorical variable. But what about the case where you have what do you call them, where you have two variables? For example, we want to look at distribution of bank account availability by country. So what you do, because of time, I'm copy pasting because of time. Control C, Control V, that point. So we first change our table. So from DF, we are going now to group by country and bank account, and then count. So let's see what we have at that point. So on tab 3, for each country and for each bank account option, you have values. Then you want to generate percentages, but then you want percentages to add up over the bank account variable. So all the no's should add up to 100% and all the yeses should add up to 100%. So you ungroup and then now group by bank accounts. Then Control Shift M, then generate your percentage. So tab 3, you have that. So if you sort by this, all these no's should add up to 100 and all these yeses should add up to 100. And that's how I choose to actually calculate my percentages. So you can also decide to group by country and let each country add up to 100%, but I choose to do it this way. Now, what's funny is that now for this graph, you can first have the original graph and then change a few things. When you're working with a grouped, and when I say grouped variable, not variable, a grouped plot, bar graph, you want to have a y-axis, an x-axis, and then your bars categorized by another categorical variable. So in our case, our x-axis will be country, like this. Our y-axis will also be percentage, but on top of that, we are going to have now bars, like 2 bars for Kenya, 2 bars for Rwanda, and we're going to have them as 2 because our bank account variable has 2 values. So what you do, the first thing is, so here we want to plot the third one, plot 3, plotting plot 3 is equal to, right now our data is tab 3. X is equal to country still, Y is equal to pack, but this time what you do, you remove your fill from this point, delete it. I hope you're together. And then come specify it at that point by saying fill is equal to, now you insert the grouping variable. The grouping variable. So when you're working with 2 categorical variables and a continuous variable, your group, your fill now becomes the grouping variable. This means that each category of this variable will have a different color. So all yeses will have one color and all no will have a different color. Then I'll show you how we are going to specify the colors at the end. Then geomba start is equal to identity, width is equal to this. Then you come and specify how you want your bars to be. Like, do you want them to be stacked one on top of the other, or do you want them side by side? So I always use Dodge. I find it pretty. So Dodge is side by side. That's it. And then geom underscore text, the label is still percentage, still that size, still that size. But now because you're having dodged bars, you have to add another option here called position, is equal to position underscore dodge. Then you can give the width, let's say width is equal to 0.9. And then our my R theme, then title, distribution of bank account by country, change that. Again, we don't want the x-axis because we can already see their countries, and then that, and then that. So let's see what we have here. Cool. So, okay, we have that. One thing we can do is we can remove the title, the legend title, And then we can also give better colors. I don't like these ones. So let's first work with that. When you're looking at grouped bar graphs, you can use I use two options, either scale_fill underscore brewer or scale_fill underscore manual. Scale_fill brewer works with things we call palettes, and there is what do you call it? A package called our color brewers that can give you different palettes, but you can also Google the palettes online, you'll get them. So you can use palette, which, let's say, for example, I can use one that is called spectral. For some of the things I'm not explaining, I'm sorry, you can always just Google to get more information. I hope that's okay. I don't like that. It looks like carrots and potatoes. So I'll fill scale_fill manual. This allows you to specify your own colors. So I can have values is equal to, let's say, gray and maroon. Let's think about that. Yeah, okay, cool. I think this looks okay-ish. What I want to do is I want to remove the legend title. So where's the theme? Legend dot is it dot title is equal to element underscore blank. I think that's it, I'm not sure. And then legend dot position, I want it to be at the bottom. So let's see how this works. MIR, then please work. Cool, I think that looks fine. Yeah, so at this point, I can increase my y-axis plus y-lim from 0 to what? From 0 to 50. Let's try 50. Yeah, cool. Yeah, oops, so my bars are a bit, my texts are a bit off. I don't know, let me try 0.4. Anyway, some of these aesthetics, you just have to play around with them. No, that looks weird. Let's see. Okay, that looks better. Anyway, guesswork, but it works. So you can see this looks good. I don't know if I click on zoom, you'll see it. I don't know if you can see the pop-up, but it actually looks good. And you can see it has the same look and feel for the previous graph. Yeah, that's all to do with bar graphs. So again, to reiterate, the only difference, one thing you need to know is that when you're using, when you want to color your graphs, your bars in a bar graph, you should think about fill. So what do you want to fill them with? That's how I explain it to my students. So fill, so in the first case, if you want to fill with a color and you have one categorical variable, your fill argument goes under geom underscore bar. If you have two, it goes under the ggplot function. What else changes? Again, because we are generating our own tables, that will always be equal to identity. You can play around with your horizontal adjustments and your vertical adjustment. Yeah, that's it. Again, I think you can see the importance of setting a universal theme. So line graph, the same idea. So for example, if we want to look at the distribution of registrations by month, so take your DF, group by month, count and group, and then calculate the percentage. Save that, close that, close that, close that, close that. Tab 4. So we have a value for each of the month over here. And that's what we want to plot. Maybe, sorry, Doris, just a question. Do we have anyone with questions on the bar graph or what we've covered so far?
So yeah, does anyone have any questions on what on this part of the workshop?
I also love complaints. If anyone has a
Well,
complaint.
everyone's saying that Sylvia says everything, it's clear. Ravi says,
Okay,
nope,
thank you.
well explained, easy to understand. We have some smiley faces here.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, mhm.
Oh, and just one quick thing. So could you also, once you're done with this set, like when we're done with the webinar at like an hour, could you send me your finished R Markdown code so people can, you know?
That was the idea I had before. So I was definitely going to send the finished, the end product, quote unquote, markdown at the end. So yeah, I'll
Excellent.
send it later.
Yay, thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay, so for the line graph, we want to plot distribution of registration per month. We've already generated a new a table. We're calling it tab 4. So for every month, we have the percentages of people who registered during that month of the data. I generated it for part of for this session. So again, I know by now we know the syntax. I think another point of advice at this point, especially if you're starting with ggplot, try and avoid copy pasting, because the more, while I was in primary, we used to be taught handwriting, so we could be told to write a sentence. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dogs, like on 3 full skirts, and by the end of that, you will get used to it. It's the same thing with ggplot functions. The syntax can be a bit intimidating at first. You're like, okay, what does v just h just blah blah blah? But once you understand, you can make it a habit to always type. It doesn't matter if you're already good at it, just type, and by the time you're coming up with 10 different plots, you'll have already got the gist of it. So data is equal to, this case, tab 4. Then aesthetics, x, what goes to the x-axis. In this case, it's our month. What goes to the y-axis? In this case, it's our par. So as opposed to the single variable bar graph, for a single variable line graph, you have to add an option, group is equal to 1. And I've never really known why. If you exclude this part, you won't get a plot, I think. So group is equal to 1, it's like telling ggplot that plot my data as is. I'm not sure, but we always have to have that group is equal to 1. And then this time we are plotting a geom underscore line, which has kind of different arguments from geom underscore bar, but start remains. So start is equal to, start is equal to identity. Start is equal to identity. And then the other thing, color. So here, that's where color comes to play, color. And sometimes you can get confused with, you can get confused by color COLOUR and color COLOR. So just try whichever one will give you an error, one will not. So in this time we don't have fill, we have color. So color is equal to maroon. You can describe your line type, but in this case, I just want a solid line, which is the default. Or then you can specify the size of line. Size is equal to 1. So let's see what we have at this point. We have that. At times, and you can see the x-axis is ordered, because that's what LibreDate does. When it's generating the month variable, it orders them in terms of like how they appear Jan to Dec. because you don't want a plot that starts that organize I'm sorry, that displays the variable alphabetically, or April, August, blah blah blah. That does not make sense. So yeah, but what I love doing is also having a point on my graph. So geom underscore point plus, let's see what that gives us. Yeah, I don't know. I find this one better. Then again, we can have our, so when it comes to the bar graph, the difference between the bar graph and the line graph, this part is what is different, like the group part over here and the aesthetics of the geom underscore line. Otherwise, everything else remains the same. So we can have geom underscore text if you want your text is label, yeah, label is equal to park, size is equal to 4. H just here, they're a bit different, but let's first use our default ones and see. V just is equal to negative 0.25. What else? What else? Nothing. I think nothing. Let's see. Yeah. So you can increase the size. I don't have time to play around with let me just change here. Play around with the text. Again, if you don't want the text, feel free to ignore the geom underscore text. So to have these labels pretty, just play around with V just and H just until you get optimal values. Then we are lucky we created our theme. So then what? Then labs. Title is equal to, I am too lazy. Title is equal to that. X is equal to, everyone can see X is month, so I don't care. Y is equal to percentage. What else? My caption, because I love myself too much. Caption is equal to that. Is that it? Have I left anything else? Yeah, okay, cool. What I'm going to do, I'm going to increase the Y lim. Oopsie. Y lim 0 to 9. Let's see how that looks. No, I don't want 0. I want 7.5 because my list is 7.7. I don't know. Okay, at least you get the graph. So that's 8.1, 7.7, 8.7, blah, blah, blah. Again, because we're using one theme, you can see the graph looks like this. And that's a line graph. So please note that until that point, like that's universal for all the graphs, at least bar graph and line graph. Whatever will be different is geom underscore line and its arguments, and group is equal to 1. So I've done the same for average age of respondents registering per month, but here I was looking at average age. So grouping by month, calculate the average age. When you're using means, for those who are a bit new to R, you have to include this option so that it drops your what? Your missing values. So once we run that, tab 5, you get average age per month. And then again, data is equal to that, IS, X is equal to month, Y is equal to that, group is equal to that, plus geom point plus. That is equal to identity, telling ggplot that you do not want any further data manipulation on our data. Size of the line, the color of the line. So now we know color without a U works. Then line, you can have line type is equal to solid or dashed. I love solid. Then geom underscore text. I had changed the vertical adjustment for this. Then our theme, then our labs, which take the title. The x-axis, if you don't want it to label, if you don't want it to put a label, just leave it as blank. Y-axis, this is average age, not month. Please change it on the scripts I've sent. Y is equal to average age, not month. Then caption. Then I put a limit, and that's it. Yeah. Okay. Again, we had set our option chunks to have fig.8 and fig. This was 6. Let's change this to 8. We see how this is going to look. You can also choose to change it in your specific chunk. No, it doesn't look good. Control Z. Control Z. Okay. Yeah, and that's a line graph. So again, when you have two categorical variables, I wanted to let me create a chunk here. Control C. I want to show you how to change that. So for example, we want to look at distribution of registration per month and country. So group by month and country, calculate the count, then ungroup. And again, this is in the old version of dplyr. In the new version of dplyr, there's an option, I think .drop something. There's an option that that can help you avoid this. Then group by country and find the percentage. Tab 6 is equal to that. So for each month, Jan, let's say for example, Jan, Jan, we have values for each of the countries. Then let's say for each of the country, Uganda, we have values for each month. So we want to plot a line graph where right now we want our X to be the month, our X variable, because it's preferable to generate a line graph when your X variable is a time series variable, month, day, hour, blah, 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 year, whatever. Then, so our X will be the month, our Y will be the percentage, but then we are going to have different lines for different countries. So how do we modify this? I'm going to go still the variable, the grouped data graphs from the single variable data so that it's easier to understand. So yeah, first of all,
Shell, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Could you just repeat what you said, because there was a pause. There was some technical difficulty.
Which part?
Could someone say which part? Because I was see if anyone
until which part were we together?
Just seeing if anyone has saying everything. Is everyone having have that connection issue that I did, or maybe it was just me? If you could just type in the chat. Okay, several people did. So could you please tell me what part? But what was the last sentence about? I'm sorry.
Yeah. As in, where did I lose people?
Right.
Okay,
Could you just say which part you lost people? Because I'm not sure, like, you know, where everybody was at. So yeah, it was like breaking up for 30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds.
Oh, here we go again.
People, so.
Yeah, okay, I know. That's why I'm trying to figure out what will be a good point. Grouping by country. Thank you, David. Could you start back with talking about
grouping
like
by country? Sorry, we are.
So I think that would be the distribution.
Sorry, I've stopped sharing. Let me share again.
I was like,
Sorry.
no, yeah, no, no
Okay, now I can
problem.
see this. Yeah. Uh, okay. Funny enough, now I can't see. Oh. Hello?
I can still hear you. I'm here.
My Zoom has frozen, so I'm not able to now share my screen. I
Uh-oh.
think, oh, there we go.
Okay,
Okay.
so Ravi mentioned that the last thing that Ravi heard was Uganda percentage and
Oh,
plotting
that's
by
fine.
month, and then there was a break. And then
Okay,
David
that's fine.
said the place where you were talking about deciding what should be the x-axis.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry about that. Please pardon my network, my connectivity. Okay, so confirm that you can see the R Markdown file again.
I can see it from my end, and
Okay.
so you have one confirmation from Ravi.
Okay. So
And
as I
David.
was
So
saying, we generated this data, tab 6. We want to generate a grouped line graph where we have our x-axis as month, and then our y-axis as percentage, and then we'll have different lines for different countries. So what I did, I copy pasted this. I'm actually going to do it again. The piece of code we used for generating a simple line graph, sorry, paste there. Then I want to have this as plot 6. Plot 6. First remove the y-lim, and then this is tab 6. So right now we are going to have data is equal to tab 6. X, our month, that's still okay. Y will be a percentage. Y will be percentage, which will also be labeled. This will also be percentage. That's the disadvantage of copy pasting. Like, you have to make sure you change everything. So X is equal to month, Y is equal to pack, but right now group will not be equal to 2. So you delete that. Group will be our grouping variable, and in our case, group is country. That means we want a line for each country, and also add color at this point. Color is equal to country, like that. Then plus geom underscore point. Right now, wait, geom underscore point, then geom underscore line. Start is equal to identity still. Size is equal to 1 still. Since this is a grouped variable, we remove the coloring at that point. We are going to include it below. Then line type is equal to solid plus geom. I don't like geom text in such graphs because it appears a bit crowded. So let's see how our graph looks like at this point. Plot 6, plot 6, plot 6, plot 6. So that's how our graph looks like. These are the colors we get by default when you don't specify a coloring, a palette or a scheme. But at this point, I could change that and have scale underscore color underscore palette. So remember, when we were creating bar graphs, we used fill. So scale underscore fill underscore whatever. In this case, we are using color. So scale underscore color underscore. I can use palette this time. Then brewer. Again, scale underscore color underscore brewer. Scale underscore color underscore brewer. Then palette. You can research more about palettes. Is equal to spectral. Then plus. Think that's it. Yeah, I think this is prettier, but I don't know. You feel free to change whatever you will do. If you like, you want to have your own colors, you can use scale underscore color underscore manual. Then values is equal to you put in 4 colors, 4 because you want a color for each of the countries. So it depends. Sometimes palettes are really amazing when you have several categories and you don't want to keep listing colors. Am I still audible?
Yes, you
Hello?
were kind of breaking up, like when you're talking, but it actually like ended up being fine. We lost you for a second, and then I think you were talking about the palettes or something.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think you're good now. But for a second, I think you're talking about the palettes. That's when we were like, it's okay now.
Sorry, I think the good thing is that I'm getting a pop-up like your connection is unstable. So every time I ask whether we are still together, I'm always getting that. So that's why I have to keep confirming. Yeah, and that's it for line graphs from my end. Again, we have several scale. Let me see, scale underscore color. We have several of them, so feel free to, we have hue, we have gradient, feel free to explore all this. Then the last type of graph is the scatter plot, and I'm going to pass on this very fast. With the scatter plot, you want to generate a graph of 2 continuous variables. So in this case, you don't need to generate a table before, or like have a table separately. So you just want to, from your data, this should pick the household size and the income. So we have a variable for household size and another variable for income. And then geom underscore point, specify the size of your points, the color of your points, you can feel free to change that, and then shape. So if you go to the R4DS book by Hadley, and I'm not able to pronounce the other guy's name, I'm sorry. They've described different shapes, so you can choose whichever shape you want. Then my R theme we created, you can see how easy it is when you have one theme, like even your graphs, your codes become very small and tidy, or rather I hope mine are tidy. Then labs, the same, because this was generated data, this is fake data, that's how our plot looks weird. But this is a point graph. It's just that ideally we will use scatter plots to show a very good distribution between 2 continuous variables. So again, because I generated income like just randomly, that's why it doesn't really look good, but at least it shows you how to generate a point graph using geom underscore point. And you can change the color here. Which color do I want? Let's use black. Let's use red. Let's go back to maroon. Sorry, but you get the point. Then again, when you have 2 continuous variables, let's say now you want to look at the distribution between income and household size for each country, right? So you want the same kind of graph, but then you want different dots or points for different countries. You come add in a color here. Remember when we were plotting the group by not the group, but the bar graph, we used fill is equal to. So in this case, it will be color is equal to your grouping variable. That means you won't specify a color over here. So size is equal to 1, shape is equal to 3, and the rest are as usual. I specified my colors manually. So once plotting that, again, it doesn't look good because this is fake data, but you get the point. Yeah, so that's it. So from what we've covered so far, you can see the only place that differs is at least the first 2 lines. So once you're able to specify the correct arguments in the ggplot function and the geom underscore point function, everything else just flows. And that's how you create basic graphs. I wanted to talk about other small, like a few neat things you can do with the graphs. So at first you can think of reordering bar graphs. So let's go back to plot 2. So you see this graph, you have Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda. This is not an ordinal variable, it's a nominal variable. So it means you can reorder the categories. So how do we do this? I'm going to borrow this plot here and show you how to do it. 5.1, 5.1. I'm going to insert it here and call it plot 2b. So just to remind you, again, we're using this tab 2. Let me show you how tab 2 looks like. The distribution per country. So the same, but then we want to order our X. So what happens? Normally, this is the graph we had before. So we are going to first add Y lim con 0 to what? 0 to 40. Let's see how it looks. Okay, it's okay. So what we're going to do, you see over here, X is equal to country. Delete that, then type reorder country, comma. If you want your bars to be in decreasing order, you have reorder country, then comma, minus pack. So if we do that, your graph, your bars appear in decreasing order. So that means if we remove this over here, that's ascending order. So I always prefer decreasing order. So descending order rather. So we have that. So the only thing you will need to change is the X aesthetics, the X argument, where you have reorder, your X axis as is, then comma, negative, whatever you're plotting on your Y axis. That's the first one. The other part is flipping graphs. So there are people who will prefer, especially when your X axis text are long, you would rather flip so that at least they look neat. There are people who are against flipping. Well, I don't mind, and most of the work I've done, like my bosses or the project managers don't mind. So we can have these flipping graphs. So we already worked on this theme, my R underscore theme plus that. So this is what you have to add, code flip. But remember, before our H just was 0.5, like we had different H just values. So once you flip, you have to adjust. So this has already been adjusted. The H just and V just have already been adjusted. Just to show you what I mean, if you look at my console, when we were plotting the normal graph, the H just was 0.5 and V just was negative 0.25. Right now, once you flip, you have to change your the horizontal adjustment and vertical adjustment of your graph so that your labels look good. But anyway, the main function used to flip is code underscore flip. Then we have facet. Sorry, there is how many more minutes do I have?
You
Although
have
I'm almost done.
33 minutes, and we have a question. So are there any options for labeling lines directly next to the lines on the graphs? For example, as Dr. Edward Tuff advocates?
Sorry, I don't know what doctor, I
So,
don't know
you
that.
know, like the Tuff template. Well, I mean, Dr. Tuff, this person mentioned about options labeling lines directly next to the lines on the graph.
Labeling lines directly next to the lines. Sorry, I don't understand that question.
Could you, Silver, could you please elaborate about that? Um, why don't, well, right now the chat is, oh, we have another question about, can you explain about chord flip?
Okay, sorry, I didn't understand that question, but if the person who asked it can maybe ask me later, maybe we can discuss. I don't know what they're talking about, but I'll be happy to clarify. So chord flipping is just flipping the graph, like it's no longer vertical, it's horizontal. So, and this at times is important when your axis text are very long. Sometimes you have surveys where the options are long, like please tell us why you love our services. A, because we deliver food on time. B, because we have a very pretty app, and you want to capture that whole sentence in a graph. And when you have a vertical graph, and by vertical I mean this kind of graph, it can seem a bit crowded, over here, like the whole statement fitting in here. So at times we rather flip, and then you can have the statement as long as it is, even though we have to like break it into different lines on the axis itself, so that even when a client sees it, they're able to read it. Is that explanation enough?
We did get some clarification for the previous question. Instead of a legend for line colors, is it possible to place the line labels directly on the lines in the plot?
Or line labels, like let's say, for example, have Kenya. Okay. Have like let's say here red would mean will be Kenya, like have a Kenya somewhere here. Is that the question?
I believe like
I think so.
labeling the
So.
lines with the like for example, the line graphs would put the label as the countries.
Okay. I think I have an idea of what they mean, and yes, it's possible, but I can't really remember how to code that part. There's a geoman.
Oh, okay. I think I know what it means. So I guess like you have your lines, and then like you just put like on the right hand side of the line, like for example, for Uganda, the blue line, it would be like somewhere on the right hand side of that line, Uganda. So you can just really correspond the color with the country. I believe that, and the line labels would be in the same color. So it would be like a blue color for Uganda, and then a green for Tanzania, but like on the right. I believe that's what.
Okay, I also think that's what they mean, and I think that's possible. I've ever seen that, but I hardly use that, so I don't have a piece of code on top of my head for that. But if someone on the audience has a code ready, I think it's really doable. But again, it's not a code I have at the top of my mind. I was thinking maybe it's something, no, but geom underscore vline, no, it's not vline, because geom underscore vline adds a vertical line somewhere. So there has to be an argument, but I don't know it right now. But thank you for the question. I think that's an assignment for my next ggplot training. Thank you. What was I saying? And the person who asked about flipping, I hope I've explained the right way, like understandable way. Then we have faceting. So you can, like, instead of having dodged bars like this one over here, like this one, sometimes you may want to just have like a plot for each category. So those without bank accounts and those with bank accounts. And there you use a principle called faceting. So there are two codes used to facet. So we have facet trap that facets a plot by one variable, and facet grid facets a plot by more than one variable. So facet trap is just the same way you can have the same kind of data we used to plot a grouped bar graph. So let me show you here, tab 9. So I was looking at the different levels of education per country. So for example, in Kenya, we have this, and then Rwanda, and then Tanzania and Uganda. So I want to look at the education level, but for each country. So at that point, you just generate your graph as though you are generating for one country. So like X is equal to education level, Y is equal to back, the same way we did for the normal one, the normal graph. I think by now we get the gist. And then at the end, you facet trap. So here you're saying, I want this plot to be, I want a plot for each of the countries. So there's a tilde sign here, and then for each of the countries, and then definitely your column is going to be equal to 1. I repeat, you have tab 9. In this case, we want to look at distribution of education level by country. So for each country, what's the distribution of the education level? But I don't want this to go into one graph. I want to plot a single graph for each, but then within the same window-ish. So you have your code the same way we generated the first bar graph, but then at the end you facet underscore wrap. So facet underscore wrap is when you want to facet a plot by one variable, in this case country. Then there's a tilde sign, then country, then number of columns is equal to 1. Then you can adjust your Y limits. So this is one plot, this is one graph initially, but you can see it has like semi graphs within. So if you want to look at the distribution, let's say primary education within the different countries, it will be easier to read it that way than if you had a dodged graph, because it will be like too much information in one graph. So that's it. Again, you see it's one column. You can change, and this is my assignment to you guys. Go learn how you can change you see this gray band. You can change the gray band to a different color. You can change the size of the countries. You can do whatever. So because of time, we won't do that. Then we have facet grid. So facet grid is used when we want to facet a plot by 2 variables. And here I used a case of if we want to look at the distribution of gender of the respondents by country and location type. So the table looks like this. Tab 10. So we have 3 categorical variables: rural, not rural, location type, country, and gender, and then the percentage. So this percentage is per country, per location type. So per country, that is Kenya, those who live in Kenya and are rural areas, how many are male, how many are female, and what's the percentage? So what we want to do is we want to plot a single graph, like male, female, but then for each country and for each location type. So that's why we are saying faceting by 2 variables. And here the 2 variables will be location type and country. So again, you want your X to be the gender, Y to be percentage. Everything else remains the same. We've covered this. But then when it comes to faceting, we use facet underscore grid. So facet underscore wrap is for 1 variable, facet underscore grid is for 2 variables. So what does this mean? The variable to the left of the tilde indicates the variable that will be shown on the rows, and then the variable on the right, to the right of the tilde, will be our column variables. Let me show you how this looks at the end. So we have that. So our country was on the left. So that's the variable that goes to each row. So each row represents a country, and then each column represents a location type. So it's either rural or urban. And at times we'll want clients who want to look at, you'll get clients who want to look at data like this for each location type and each country, what's the gender distribution. So that's how facet grids are used. I rarely use facet grids myself, but I think once you get to understand them, it's they're really good. And then second last part, I was expecting someone to have already asked me, oh, how do we add percentage marks on the y-axis, or how do we alter the breaks? Like instead of me having 0, 20, 40, 60, let's say I want to have 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, blah, blah, blah. So I've combined all that in one graph. So for the labels, what you're going to do, again, I'm using a table we'd used before. I'm just remaking, I'm just remaking this plot 2. Let me go back and show you. Plot 2, where's plot 2? This one. I'm just remaking this, but then I'm changing the breaks on the y-axis and putting percentages on the text marks, the labels. So label is equal to percent. This time we are going to paste. So I hope we all know how paste works. Paste 0, paste something like a name. And for example, if I come here and say paste 0, Shelmith, and I don't know, 2020, it's going to combine the two without having any space between. So it's this piece of code takes each percentage and pastes the percentage sign. Everything else remains the same, but at the end, you'll have to add a scale underscore y underscore continuous. So this is where you change your limit. So let's say my limits are 0 to 40. You have the sequencing, the sequence, what do you call this? Sequencing function that generates as breaks, a sequence of values, so 0 all the way to 40. And now this is how your y-axis will, these are the values that will be displayed on the y-axis. And then also you want your labels, now these breaks to have function of x. Hi Doris, did you lose me for a minute, for
Yeah,
a second?
you stopped at it was saying like function as a percentage of x. That's the last thing
Yeah,
that I heard you say.
awesome. So once that pops up, I keep quiet because it's
It's
working. Okay,
like,
so as I was saying,
hold up here. It's an interruption.
it's okay. So labels a function of x. So what this does is it takes each of the values. So here x will represent each of these values, and then paste a percentage sign next to it. And then the labs are as usual. So when we run that, you will notice 1, we have percentages on the text. 2, we have percentages on the y-axis. And 3, we now have better breaks. Like it was not as before, I think it was 0, 10, 20, and so on. Right now we have better breaks. I think there's a package that can do this. Is it Scales? I think Scales can also do this, but again, at the beginning I mentioned there are very many ways of working on ggplot stuff, and this is how I do it. Finally, assuming you want to combine your graphs, imagine you have this client who wants to look at, let's say, I don't know, different graphs that are relatable. I don't know which example to give. There's this new package called Patchwork. Okay, it's not really new right now, but it's still new to me because I've still, like, I've been using it for a short while. It allows you to combine plots. So I'll start with something very simple. Control Shift C. Let's say P1 is equal to this. This will produce a plot that let me show you. It will produce a plot where these plots have been put side to side, like this: plot 2 on the left, then plot 3 on the right. And then you can also use division sign. So you can have one on top of the other. So plot 2 on top, plot 3 at the bottom, You can play around with this. Please read more about patchwork. So that was just to showcase. You can also have this, where you have two plots side by side at the top, then two plots side by side at the bottom. And for you to specify top and bottom, you use the division sign. Then you have that. So I'm not sure if you can see my pop-up, so I'm just going to increase the space here. And this is something you can actually copy and share with someone. Let's say if I want to share on my Slack over here. Okay, I don't know if you can even see my Slack right now, but yeah. So that's the end. That's all what I had prepared. I hope you guys have learned something. I'm open to questions, I think, for the next 15 or so minutes, or maybe suggestions on how we can make codes better. But let me show you how now this output looks at the end of the day. So we knit our file, we render our file using the knit icon. Run. For those who are new to our Markdown, this is what we call rendering. So it combines everything we've done today into one very neat file. Run. Run. Then I don't think you can see the pop-up. So let me open this in browser and then share with you. Stop share first. Doris, hello.
Hello.
My Zoom has frozen again, so I don't know. Oh, there.
Now
Okay, share
it's
screen.
unfrozen, yeah.
I want to show the rendered file.
Okay.
So confirm you can see this file on the browser.
I definitely can.
Yeah, so remember at the beginning when we're talking about YAML, you can insert links. So if you click on this link, it takes you to the Twitter. I hope you followed my R community. And if you click on my name here, it takes you to my very pink website. It gives you a table of content of what we've done. If you want to look at the data set, I included a link to the data set. And now our report looks like this. What is this? This is code, graph, code, graph, code, graph, code, graph, blah, 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 code graph. You can also produce this output in a way that you don't want people to see your codes like I do, because sometimes we write very good codes that you don't want to share with people, and it's not being mean. So over here where we have equal is equals to true, this says that you want your code to be seen. So equal is equal to false means your code will not be seen by people. And did I have anything else to add? I think I had something else to add, but I've forgotten. But I'm going to, I think it will come to me when before 11 or before the call ends. But that's it from me. Questions, complaints?
I can curate these questions. Does anyone have any questions for Shell? You got good work from David.
I can see, thank you.
Oh.
Or even suggestions, or if anyone has like, if anyone has a better piece of code than I have presented, if anyone has links to more ggplot stuff, I think this is time where we can share more about ggplot.
Okay, so we do have a question. If knitting to PDF, is it possible to control where page breaks occur?
Let me tell you, first of all, I don't like knitting to PDF because it gives me issues. One, two, is it possible to control where page breaks occur? I don't really know. I don't know. We'll find out. I don't know.
And going back to the labeling question, GG Repel package, can it be used to label the countries?
I've not used GG Repel before, but I was listening to a talk yesterday, and I think the idea, labeling the countries on the specific lines. I think that's what Maggie means.
Yeah.
I think so. I've not used GG Repel yet, but I think so. I don't know. We will try.
Is there any more questions? Because I'll have some wrap up things to say. Well, everyone really enjoyed your workshop, and Danielle and I both thank you. I think Danielle's mic isn't working, so I'm just going to say thank you from both of us for doing this. It was very insightful.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post this on my website and then share a link with you guys so that you can access the data and the scripts.
And I'll also share it. Like if you could just send me that link, and then I can email it out to the participants too.
Yeah. Sure.
So yeah, what I'm gonna do after this, like at once, like later on today, what I'm gonna do is get the workshop saved on my computer, and then I think Danielle just pretty much send it to her and see when she can upload it on YouTube for our YouTube channel. And then also what we'll do is if just send that link out, since you said that you're going to just put everything on your site, which makes things really easy. So we're not sending, you know, like a whole folder full of R Markdown files before and after and stuff. So let's see if there's any other questions. Just a lot of thanks.
I know.
A lot of thanks.
Much welcome.
So
thank you so much for appreciating my very basic introduction. I really hope I've met people's expectations. Yeah, we can always do an advanced part. Maybe the people who are very good at Tidy Tuesdays can now come show us how to produce those super amazing graphs and plots. But thank you so much.
So just
maybe Doris, you can tell us about Mayar. We still have 9 minutes.
Right. Yeah. Why not? So pretty much our organization is for supporting people who identify as underrepresented users of R, and that can come in, I mean, just any way that you feel that you're, you know, underrepresented user. And so we're very new right now. So right now, the one thing that we have been doing is doing this summer webinar series. And so we have some scheduled for next month. Like for maybe like 2 months, we have some scheduled. So if you are interested in doing a webinar on something that you think might be interest to the MyR community, please contact me or Danielle and let us know, and then we'll see what we can do. But one of the things that we will be doing this month is an informational, we call it a coffee hour. We did our first one at the Chicago Saturdays before the conference. Michelle was there. So it's going to be pretty much like the same, but we're going to probably focus more on talking about our organizational needs, because we would love to have people be involved in the organization if they have the time to do so. So, and then it'll just also give us an opportunity to just chit chat with each other, talk about our favorite R packages, work, whatever's, you know, whatever, you know, it's very informal, our coffee hour. So pretty much that's it on my end. Are there any questions from anyone? Any final words? Oh, let me just put the registration form if you're interested in joining the MyR Slack, because if you just fill out the Google form and then, you know, you get the invite to the Slack, that's where we have a lot of information too about the webinars, resources. You know, if you have job openings, you can go and look at our jobs channel and put an opening or see if there's any openings for you. So, oh, I accidentally sent it to one person, not to everyone. Gotta love Zoom. Gotta love Zoom. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. So, thank you, everyone. And okay, just one final call for questions, because if not, I guess, you know, I can just end the webinar. So, well, I'm going to stop recording it.